but he signed on to in this bill. He also understands there's need to keep people who are first-time offenders, who are nonviolent offenders, or who are potential first-time offenders who haven't gotten, I yield myself an additional 3 minutes, who in fact are people who are getting themselves into the crime stream for the first time, that they should be diverted from the system. So I hope this crime bill, when it passes, the Biden-Hatch crime bill, as it becomes law, God willing.
The Biden-Hatch crime bill is what they called it. The Biden-Hatch crime bill. Okay, so his name was on it. I thought he was just one of the 50-something senators who were trying to get this to pass. And some people put Clinton's name on it. But apparently it was Biden who jumped it off. If any of that is wrong, please correct me, all right? All right, let's go.
I hope that we will have ended once and for all this notion that is a hangover from the 60s, that somehow Democrats are weak on crime and Democratic presidents are weak on crime and Republicans are tough on crime. The truth is, every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of this Congress, every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden, on that bill, and has had a majority vote of the Democratic members of the United States Senate on the bill.
Is that true, guys? I need y'all to let me know that in the comments. Only y'all know y'all are really good at this right here. Like anytime I ask a question, the responses are almost as if you all worked in the Senate. And I appreciate that. Why? Because even when I go look it up myself, I'm reading the information and hearing the information from you know, as someone that's just being introduced to it. But when you explain it to me, a lot of you explain it to me in a way that I'm able to get it right there. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that.
So one of the things I want to do in addition to end the crime is end the political carnage that goes on when we talk about crime. Crime is not Democrat or Republican. Making the streets safe is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is one of those issues I hope this passage of this bill will be taken out of the gridlock category and moved into an emerging consensus. And the consensus is as follows, and I will cease when I finish this statement. The consensus is, A, we must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents, it doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. The Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the Democratic President of the United States of America, the Democratic Attorney General, the Republican leader of this effort, Senator Hatch, the Republican senator from Texas. We all agree on that. Now, we can find some fringe folks in the study groups on the right wing and left wing, libertarians and left-wingers in my party who say, no, that's not what we should do. But politically, that consensus has been arrived at. I acknowledge there was not that consensus in the 60s. There is today. There's a second thing that we all have agreed upon, and that is unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized, they literally have not had an opportunity We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
I mean, it's many ways of focusing on someone. You don't have to focus on them as far as, you know, just lock them up for petty crimes. You don't know how to do that. And I get it. I don't want nobody doing anything to my family either. I mean, my family security is number one. You know, when it comes to, I just want them to be able to leave the homes and get back home safely every single day. And I definitely don't want anything to happen to me, nor anyone that I know, or anyone for real, for that matter. I don't want anything to happen to anyone. But from my understanding, this crime bill arrested a lot of people and forced a lot of people to stay in jail for a long time who committed petty crimes. And should they have received a slap on the wrist and then get released? I mean, smack them on the butt, spin them around 5 times, then release them? No, not at all. You charge people according to their crime, and that's it. But then there's a bunch of other people that's locked up right now that committed those petty crimes, and now everything out on the block is free. I mean, it's legal now. It's not free. It's legal now. Like in many states, it's legal to go and buy you some weed and smoke it out in the streets sometimes, as long as you have a little bit, a certain amount. A certain amount. But then there are people who got arrested with that certain amount back in those times, and they served some hard time for that. So at the end of the day, man, it's a lot to look into. This is not an overnight fix at all. And yes, since I was closer to Liberalville, and I lead with my heart based off of the experiences of mine and people that I know, because it's unfortunate you can't even be a black person in this country. And I'm only speaking for my vantage point. I can't speak for yours at all. But it's very difficult to be a black person in this country and not have, felons very close to you in your family. We all know somebody who committed felonies. We all know somebody who's locked up right now for committing felonies. We all went to someone's funeral who died violently, gunshots or stabbed or something like that. We've all, and when I say all, I'm talking about great majority. And then I also have to say in the inner city, and that sucks. So I get it. Crimes have to be tough, but as long as we make them fair, and consider other things that go along with it. Because I was, the way I was raised was not easy at all. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna go through my story, but that's just how I feel about this. I honestly didn't know that Joe Biden had such close. I didn't know that he had his hands this much into this crime bill, because this definitely did lead to mass incarceration, for real. And I got another video that explains this a little more. But for now, I wanted to be able to check this out fully. Him arguing for this crime bill to be passed. And do I see it? Is everything wrong with this? Everything's not wrong with this. Everything's not wrong with it. Everything's not right with it. But I'm just speaking on the things that I believe to be wrong.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact.
So he was the one that first called them predators. It wasn't Hillary. I thought it was Hillary that said predators. Oh, no, she said super predators. So I guess she wanted to step hers up from when Joe said it.
We have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale.
They're not beyond the pale, many of those people. That's a lie. I have to say that. That's a lie. I know many of those people. I've gone to church. I've served with many of those people who turned their lives around. That's a lie. I was friends with a few of those people. That's a lie. I'm just saying that part right there, that's a lie.
And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. You're looking at the fellow who was one of the primary architects of the Sentencing Commission. You know what the basic premise of the Sentencing Commission is? I know the presiding officer knows. It was the first time in 80 years we rejected the notion that the condition of sentencing must be related to how long it would take to rehabilitate. I'm the guy that said rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it, and even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. I remember when it was going on, when I was making these arguments in the late 70s, they used to call.
So even if it was a petty crime, even if it was like something slight, you catch somebody with some weed in their pocket, or you catch somebody with a weapon, right? And they have a good excuse for that weapon. Happened to my brother. He did a few years. My little brother, my baby brother, it happened to him. And you want to arrest him for the gun, and you want to arrest him, give him more years for the per bullet that's inside the gun. And yeah, should he be walking around the city with it? Nah, not at all. Not at all. But we're talking about first-time offenders, someone who has a weapon, because in certain areas, and a lot of y'all don't believe this, but in certain areas, if you don't have one, you're stupid. You're considered like dumb not to have one. So serious. That's why I hurry up and got my family up out of there. For real. A lot of people don't know that, but that's, man, please. That was number one on my list. Like, boom. If I ever have a family of my own, we gone. For real. But yeah, so the 85% of your time, you get 5 years and you gotta do 3.5. Like
Biden's same time for the same crime provision. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But
how do you think so many people see, and I apologize for saying this, but I gotta say this part right here. You arrest people, they get 5 years. When you arrested them, they had children. They had children, newborns. When they get out, their babies are in kindergarten or something. They can't get a job because they committed a crime. They have a record now. They're a felon. Now they're down there selling more drugs and going back. And that's why most offenders are repeat offenders, because they're actually out there doing what they know. Because actually, contrary to some people's beliefs, they are trying to get their lives together. It's just not that easy. It's not that easy to go out, find a job, get back to the halfway house by a certain time, checking with your parole, all that other stuff. It's a whole lot that goes along with that. It's a whole lot that goes along with that, man. Thank God for my family for keeping me out the system and keeping me away from doing anything that could lead me there. Well, for most things that could lead me there, man. But this is rough, man.
There is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malfactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that. And I think there's a consensus among Republicans in that. Old barbed wire Republican conservatives just want to hang them high. Even those folks are saying, hey, we got to deal with the root cause of this. Not one or the other, but separately. And liberal Democrats who used to say, let's look at the sociological underpinnings of why this occurred, and we have to, they're now saying, hey, look, we got to take back the streets. We'll make that fight later. So there is a consensus. I hope the remainder of the discussion, as we close out the debate in this bill, we can end that old fight. We can put it behind us. Hopefully we have, the senator from West Virginia said this is a historic moment on this bill, a consensus being reached. I think it is, but I think it's a historic moment for a political reason as well. Hopefully we will end the discussion. Very.
All right, so this began mass incarceration. Mass incarceration. Not very smart incarceration, just mass incarceration. There's a whole lot of people getting arrested all at once, massively. And it's just good because I had a debate with someone after one of my videos I just recently did. And there was a gentleman who was on the video. It was a black dude. He was trying to teach someone from the block that he was on about Trump and Biden, the differences. And this gentleman represented Trump, and the other guy he was talking to said that he was going to vote for Biden because he just didn't like Trump. And this gentleman mentioned this crime bill, and I had a conversation with someone about it, and they said that Biden didn't have that much of a hand in the crime bill. He was just one of the many senators that was on it. And so when he called it the Biden Hags bill, Biden Hatch bill, Biden Hatch crime bill, that told me that he had a lot more to do with it. One thing I do want to say is that it is good to see that the person who is the president today at some point seemed to have had a bunch of sense. He communicated extremely well. He just grew old and faced whatever things that you face when you get older, which is a blessing too. But the older we get, we're gonna start to do those things as well. Like I'm noticing the older I get, I'm forgetting stuff like this. Bow. Little things. My poor phone, man. I leave that bad boy everywhere around the house. But it's good to see that at some point he looked like he had some sense. But this bill right here, it had its positives in it, but the negatives should have just canceled it out, and it never should have went forward. Something else should have went forward. This right here, not so much. But again, I'm not heavy into politics. Y'all know that. If you're watching right now, more than likely you're someone who has been subbed to the channel or have seen my videos before. And if you haven't, and if you're new here, hey, thank y'all for checking us out. But just let me know whatever it is y'all want me to know in the comments below about this. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and hopefully inside the Patreon as well. You guys have been amazing per usual, man. Love ya. Bye.